Deeter, partner in Bessemer Venture Partners and a noted cloud AI and software investor. And Byron, it's great to have you back on the show. Let's start right there. What does this report from Nvidia tell us about what we're seeing in terms of this phase of AI rollout and adoption?
Thanks, Morgan. Great to be back. I think what this tells us is that they're still able to deliver on the supply side because there's never been a question on the demand side. We hear it from the foundation model companies. We hear it from the hyperscalers that they are, begging their supply chains to deliver these chips. And so it all comes down to Nvidia's ability to continue to meet the supply demands that are coming through and keep up with production. The short term, we think this will continue, and it's no surprise that they beat and put up another fantastic print. The question is all about the medium and long term as silicon competition comes online, as the hyperscalers produce their own chips in a really credible way. We expect to see this massive market share lead start to pull back, and that might put some pressure in the medium and long term on Nvidia's performance.
What this reflects to me, whether it's these charges and revenue guidance that we're seeing Nvidia, the deals that have been struck with, Middle East sovereign nations like Saudi, these export controls we're seeing where Nvidia chips are concerned with China, and even the software companies that we reported on here in the past hour as well, like Synopsys and some of the others. What's increasingly clear to me is that AI has become a geopolitical lightning rod, whether it's from an economic standpoint, a military standpoint, just a technological standpoint, and what it means for the future of the world, to put it very dramatically. And I wonder what you think that means in terms of this intersection of investment and policy and how it all shakes out.
Well, you hit on the fascinating two core drivers here, which not only is this an economic imperative for the U.S. to win in and at, but it's also a matter of national security. Geopolitical dominance depends on winning the AI battle. And so this should be first and foremost at the top of our U.S. policy. And I applaud the government's initiatives recently to support and embrace the AI ecosystem. But this is front and center. And so as we think about job creation ahead, as we think about wealth creation, as we think about cyber defense, it all comes back to AI these days and the imperative for us to lead.
Byron, it seems to me we have a really important test case here with the Trump administration. Do walls work with intelligence? And I'm thinking about what's happening with international students and the holdup in those visas being approved. I'm thinking about Synopsys out with earnings just minutes ago, but the stock move in Synopsys was all about potential effectively export controls, and that's a big part of Nvidia's report as well. A number of ideas and opinions out there, including from Jensen Huang himself in recent days, saying, look, we need to compete head-to-head with the entire world. How do you think that's going to shake out?
Yeah, I think there's two very big differences. One is the connected markets for economics and for talent, which generally the tech industry is very supportive of. I think that's very different with China in particular because of the national security imperatives. And so you'll generally see the tech industry in support of broad open markets and the free flow of talent to get the best people to gravitate to the U.S. to work for our companies and for our causes. However, when you start to get into situations where you're exporting, the leading chips and really frontier edge capabilities, both in hardware and software, that's where we understand the lines that are being drawn and generally support the policies to have some bifurcation here, given the strategic imperative for U.S. to win.
From an investor perspective, what do you think the likelihood is that some of these tough stances toward China, whether we're talking about Nvidia, Synopsys, and that group, really have to do with the trade negotiation that's going on now? And when that clears up, perhaps these limitations clear up as well?
Of course, they're intertwined, and that there will be some holdover. However, we do think of AI chips as part of national security, much like you think of defense tech. And so where that line is drawn will be a matter of the cutting edge chips and really the nuances of the tech innovation cycles. However, we don't expect them to come off entirely. And in fact, I think this will continue to be a matter of top debate, and it really will cross DOD and national security imperatives much more than economics when you get into really the cutting edge technology.
Byron, quickly, the fact that you just bought into the San Francisco 49ers, what does it say about the business of investing in sports right now and valuations?
I think it's a comment on the value of live entertainment, of sports, that people are seeking more and more of this balance, and that the business of sports is real and open for business. It's exciting to see the emergence of private equity and venture capital into the sports world. We've been long investors in sports tech and sports adjacent things like StubHub. Now you're going to see more and more private equity and venture participation directly into teams and leagues in a really powerful way.